Famous guns of the Old West, from revolvers to rifles. In the annals of the Old West, no single firearm can claim to have conquered the frontier, but these 10 guns undoubtedly etch their names into its storied history. The essence of the Old West is inseparable from the presence of guns. Whether wielded by the solitary outlaw or the stalwart lawman, firearms are inextricably woven into the collective memory of the Wild West. Surprisingly, the Wild West saw a degree of successful gun control, but the majority of its inhabitants did indeed possess firearms. These guns served as tools on the untamed frontier, used for securing resources, defending against wildlife, and asserting dominance over Native American populations. Their reputation, however, largely stems from their roles in high-stakes shootouts, lightning-fast duels, and daring robberies. These violent confrontations and the iconic weapons associated with them have contributed significantly to the allure and legends of that era. Although no single firearm can lay claim to winning the West, the following 10 guns, some masterminded by legendary figures like John Moses Browning, left an enduring mark on the trajectory and lore of the American West. At the pinnacle of Old West revolvers stands the Colt Single-Action Army revolver, affectionately known as the Peacemaker. For anyone well-versed in 1950s Western films, the Colt Single-Action Army revolver, or Peacemaker, needs no introduction. But what exactly does single action mean? In a single-action firearm, the user manually cocks the gun's hammer before pulling the trigger to fire it. Available in various calibers, most notably the .45, this iconic revolver saw a production run of approximately 192,000 units throughout its history. While it may not have been the very first revolver, its introduction in 1873 marked a pivotal moment in firearms evolution. It earned the distinction, as noted in The Peacemaker and Its Rivals, of being the first cartridge-type revolver adopted by the U.S. Army. This six-shooter also earned a special place in the hearts of those residing on the untamed frontier. The artillery version of this trusty sidearm even made its mark in the historic Battle of Little Big Horn. Notable figures like Wyatt Earp, Wes Hardin, Bat Masterson, and the Texas Rangers all favored the Peacemaker over other options. So deeply ingrained is the Colt Single-Action Army in American history that a version gifted to President Theodore Roosevelt on his birthday commanded a staggering $1,466,250 at auction, finding a new home with an anonymous buyer. General George S. Patton, a legendary figure in World War II, famously wielded an ivory-handled Peacemaker. In fact, Colt continues to manufacture this iconic firearm to this day, driven by unyielding demand from collectors and enthusiasts. The Colt Paterson revolver, our second entry, holds a special place in history as the trailblazer of all revolvers. Samuel Colt's ingenious invention in 1831 culminated in its patenting in 1836, marking it as the world's inaugural practical revolver. Dubbed the Paterson due to its production in Paterson, New Jersey, this firearm represented a substantial leap forward from the single-shot sidearms of yore. Its role as a rapid-draw weapon in the untamed frontier context is readily apparent. During the 1840s, this early model and its immediate successors gained immense popularity in the Republic of Texas, finding favor particularly among the legendary Texas Rangers. However, it wasn't without its drawbacks, most notably a somewhat problematic trigger mechanism. The trigger remained concealed and only descended when the gun was cocked, a design quirk that resulted in frequent jamming issues, with many tales recounting its ineffectiveness in the heat of battle. Furthermore, its firepower wasn't particularly impressive, often failing to incapacitate adversaries with a single shot. Nevertheless, the blueprint of the Colt Paterson revolver paved the way for future iterations that would become ubiquitous throughout the Old West. The 1851 Colt Navy revolver, our next contender, emerges as a significant successor to the Colt Paterson, making its mark as the first sidearm of frontier gunmen. This particular firearm, characterized by shooting times, represented a .36 caliber, single-action six-shooter, distinguished by its lighter weight compared to other contemporary sidearms. Its moniker, the Navy, stemmed from its distinctive feature, as detailed in Weapons of the Civil War Cavalryman. The cylinder of the Colt Navy was adorned with an engraving depicting the Texas Navy's triumph over Mexico at the Battle of Campeche on May. The fourth firearm on our list brings us to Smith & Wesson's contribution, specifically the Russian model, which played a part in the life of the infamous Billy the Kid. Stepping away from the Colt brand, we delve into one of the other prominent firearm manufacturers, Smith & Wesson. According to the accounts of historian Jeff Kennard, this firearms company had secured a significant contract with the Russian Empire for the procurement of its firearms, which subsequently earned them the nickname Russian. This particular revolver underwent two distinct iterations before arriving at the widely recognized new model Russian, which was in production from 1874 to 1878. Impressively, more than 60,000 of these firearms were manufactured, with a substantial portion being shipped to Imperial Russia and the Japanese Navy. In closer proximity to the American frontier, Pat Garrett, the man who ultimately killed Billy the Kid, famously wielded the new model Russian revolver. It earned its moniker Russian due to the substantial quantity of units that found their way into the hands of Imperial Russia. Our fifth firearm, the Springfield Allen conversions, takes us back to the aftermath of the Civil War, when these refurbished rifles played a significant role. During the Civil War, Springfield rifles were the predominant weapons used by both the Union and Confederate forces. However, these rifles were muzzle-loaded, which had limitations in terms of efficiency and firing speed. Soldiers often encountered issues with bullets jamming halfway up the barrel, leading to frequent weapon malfunctions and even explosions, as noted by the National Park Service. After the Civil War, Erskine S. Allen proposed a transformative solution, converting these outdated muzzle loaders into breech-loaded weapons capable of firing .58 caliber bullets. After testing, the caliber was reduced to .50, and this modification became the most widely used Army rifle in the post-Civil War era. This innovation gave the U.S. Army a significant advantage over Plains tribes like the Sioux and quickly gained popularity among buffalo hunters in the American West. Over time, these rifles were replaced by more technologically advanced models, and many of the outdated weapons found their way to Europe to be used in the Franco-Prussian War. The next entry on our list introduces two Winchester rifles that are so closely intertwined that they deserve a combined mention. These rifles played a significant role in the history of the West. The story begins with Oliver Winchester, who designed the first repeating rifle in 1866. It became known as the Yellow Boy due to its distinctive yellow gunmetal casing. This firearm was a groundbreaking innovation as it allowed for multiple shots to be fired from the same gun, thanks to a lever that loaded another round into the chamber. However, the true star of the Winchester legacy was the 1873 Winchester, which gained even greater popularity. The company boldly marketed this firearm as the gun that won the West. This carbine was famously used by Buffalo Bill Cody during his frontier days and in his Wild West show. It's even said that many Western babies cut their first teeth on the sling ring of a Winchester Model 73 carbine. Historical records suggest that over 720,000 units of the 1873 model were produced, solidifying its status as one of the most iconic guns of the Old West, right alongside the Colt single-action Army revolver. Remarkably, the Winchester still sees use in modern-day competitive cowboy shooting events, showcasing its lasting impact and enduring popularity. Next on our list is the iconic image of riding shotgun in the Old West. This enduring image conjures up the sight of a solitary stagecoach traveling across the vast prairies, with a stern-faced driver tightly clutching a large double-barrel shotgun to protect the valuable cargo on board. These shotguns were often referred to as messenger's guns or cut-off guns because they were shorter in length compared to other shotguns of the era. In the 1850s, Wells Fargo stagecoaches were responsible for transporting mail, passengers, money, and gold from Missouri to California, making them tempting targets for bandits and outlaws. To safeguard their precious cargo, the company hired armed guards equipped with these messenger guns. One notable advantage of the messenger gun was that it was loaded with buckshot, which didn't require pinpoint accuracy to be effective, a crucial feature given the bumpy nature of stagecoach rides. It's during this era that the term riding shotgun is believed to have originated, although it seems to have been coined long after the peak of Wells Fargo's stagecoach operations. Nonetheless, it remains a symbol of the Old West's vigilance against the ever-present threat of banditry. It's during this era that the term riding shotgun is believed to have originated, although it seems to have been coined long after the peak of Wells Fargo's stagecoach operations. Nonetheless, it remains a symbol of the Old West's vigilance against the ever-present threat of banditry. Coming in at number 8 is the Sharp's Old Reliable, a rifle that stood as the benchmark against which all others were measured in the Old West. Although Christian Sharps was not the largest manufacturer of firearms during this era, his company, even after his passing, introduced a rifle in 1874 that would become an iconic symbol of the Wild West. This legendary firearm, known as the Old Reliable Sharps rifle, was available in various calibers, with the .50 caliber version being particularly favored by buffalo hunters. It earned the nicknames Poison Slinger and Big 50, although there is some debate among gun enthusiasts regarding the exact size of this caliber. One renowned buffalo hunter, Bill Tilghman, was said to have taken down more than 7,500 buffalo using the Old Reliable. In 1876, Sharps officially adopted Old Reliable as a trademark. According to the book Gunsmoke and Saddle Leather, the Sharps rifle became the standard against which all other rifles in the Old West were compared, attesting to its enduring legacy and impact on the era. At number 9, we have the Gatling gun, a weapon that saw limited use but left a significant mark on the Old West. Invented by Richard Jordan Gatling, this early machine gun was patented during the Civil War in 1862. The Gatling gun featured a revolving battery of multiple gun barrels and was operated by a hand crank, enabling it to fire up to 200 rounds per minute. Despite its relatively low usage, the Gatling gun was one of the most feared weapons of the era and found application after the Civil War, including during the Indian Wars. Many Western outposts were equipped with Gatling guns as a deterrent, and the mere presence of this formidable weapon often ended hostilities. One notable incident involved a Gatling gun positioned on the deck of a steamboat during a river expedition. A witness remarked that it struck fear into the hearts of any potential adversaries, earning a reputation as bad medicine for those who encountered it. However, Gatling guns had their drawbacks, notably their immobility. Although George Custer had access to Gatling guns, he chose not to bring them to the Little Bighorn battle due to their cumbersome nature. This decision has led to speculation that the outcome of the battle might have been different had he deployed one of these powerful weapons. Lastly, we have Colt's double-action revolver, a favorite of Wes Hardin and Billy the Kid. In 1877, Colt introduced a groundbreaking innovation to the Old West by producing the first successful double-action revolver. What sets double-action apart is that when the trigger is pulled, it automatically cocks the hammer and fires the weapon. This remarkable firearm was the brainchild of William Mason and marked a significant advancement in revolver technology. It was available in 3 calibers: the .32 caliber Rainmaker, the .38 Lightning, and the .41 Thunderer. Among these models, the Rainmaker stands out as exceptionally rare. Colt. An American classic notes that only about 200 of these revolvers were ever produced, making them highly sought-after collectibles today. Despite its innovative double-action trigger mechanism, the firearm was not without its quirks, and it was often used in single-action mode. Nevertheless, it found favor with notorious figures of the Old West, including Wes Hardin and Billy the Kid, solidifying its place in Western lore.